20 years is a long time to build a life, and an even longer time to watch it slowly crumble.
They say Rome wasn't built in a day, but it can certainly crumble brick by brick when no one is watching. Time builds, but neglect quietly takes it back.
For Daniel and Emily, the erosion wasn't a sudden collapse.
The erosion wasn't suddenly, but gradual. This is how things fall apart. A slow leak sinks the ship.
It was a rhythmic washing away of shared jokes and meaningful glances, replaced by the polite, hollow friction of two strangers sharing a roof.
Two strangers sharing a roof. This means you can be under the same roof, but miles apart. Proximity is not connection.
The shadow of a man named Julian had stretched across their home for 3 years before Daniel ever saw his name.
3 years before the truth had a name, because what you do not know can hurt you, and sometimes it hurts more the longer it had.
Emily had mastered the art of the dual life, finding a frantic thrill in the secrecy of late-night work calls.
A life divided between truth and secrecy. You cannot have your cake and eat it too without eventually paying a price. Double lives always come due.
And weekend yoga retreats that were actually spent in Julian's arms, while Daniel mistook her growing coldness for the simple, quiet exhaustion of middle age.
He mistook coldness for exhaustion. It's easier to sweep things under the rug than to face what's really there.
The truth finally arrived in the dead of night.
The truth will out no matter how deep it's buried.
The phone felt heavier than it should in the quiet of the 2 a.m. darkness, its screen bleeding a cold blue light onto Daniel's palms. He found 3 years of intimacy captured in digital ink, messages of love and desire meant for Julian.
Words meant for someone else. That's when it hits. You were left holding the bag all along for a love that wasn't yours anymore.
A library of betrayal he hadn't known he lived in.
Once the curtain is pulled back, you realize the writing was on the wall all along.
They tried to mend the unbendable through the autumn months.
They try to fix it, but you cannot unring a bell. Some moments echo forever.
In sterile therapy offices, Daniel listened as Emily offered practiced apologies that never quite reached her eyes.
Because actions speak louder than words, and silence can be louder than both. Apologies without sincerity.
She claimed the affair with Julian was over, but the emotional bridge between husband and wife had already been burned to the ground. Daniel tried to build a final bridge out of breakfast trays.
An attempt to rebuild. That it takes two to tangle. One person cannot rebuild what two people broke.
And soft questions. He offered her a cup of tea in the morning light, a small peace offering in the wreckage.
A small gesture, but sometimes too little, too late.
But Emily looked through him as if he were made of glass, her heart still barricaded behind the ghost of the life she had shared with Julian.
That's when you realize you've become a ghost in your own home.
By Christmas Eve, the house was filled with the scent of pine and the sound of carols, but the silence between them was deafening. Watching Emily curate a perfect holiday scene for their guests, Daniel realized she was more in love with the performance of a happy marriage than the man she had betrayed.
Because all that glitters is not gold. Some smiles are well rehearsed.
The realization was a cold, sharp stone in his chest.
Some people would rather keep up appearances and then keep the truth.
We don't have to break each other to finish this, Daniel said on a gray morning in January.
Sometimes you have to cut your losses to save what's left of yourself.
He sat Emily down and asked for a quiet separation. It wasn't an explosion of anger. It was the soft, final click of a door being locked from the inside, marking the end of 2 decades.
No explosion, just an ending. Because not every ending is loud. Some doors close without a sound.
Amidst the hushed aisles of a local bookstore, Daniel met Claire. She was a breath of cool air in a stifling year.
A new connection appears, and just like that, a breath of fresh air reminds you what peace feels like.
She listened to his silence and didn't ask him to justify his grief.
A listening ear is worth more than 1,000 words.
Offering a simple, honest connection that allowed him to remember who he was before the war at home began. To Emily, Daniel's attempt at happiness was an insult.
Funny how misery loves company until you refuse to say miserable.
At a crowded neighborhood gathering, she leaned into Alara's shoulder, her voice a practiced tremble. She began to rewrite their history.
Because when truth is uncomfortable, people will rewrite history to save face.
Painting herself as the survivor of a husband's secret betrayals to mask the 3 years she had spent with Julian.
It's easier to play the victim than face the mirror.
The rumors moved faster than the truth.
Rumors spread fast, and bad news travels even faster. A lie can travel the world before the truth puts its shoes on.
When Daniel ran into Silas at the park, his oldest friend didn't offer a greeting. Instead, Silas looked at him with a stranger's eyes and walked away, poisoned by the lies Emily had carefully spread through their circle of friends.
A friend walks away, and just like that, when it rains, it pours. As truth takes years to build and seconds to break.
The world loves a victim more than it loves the truth, Daniel told Claire as they walked through the falling autumn leaves.
People jump on the bandwagon. Truth rarely gets the same attention.
He realized that to fight Emily's smear campaign would mean becoming the monster she claimed he was. He chose instead to let the lie burn itself out in the distance.
Sometimes the high road is the hardest, but it leads to peace.
Daniel left the house for the last time, carrying only a single box of his belongings.
He walks away. Not every battle is worth fighting. Pick your battles wisely.
The truth of the last 20 years remained buried in the silence of the empty rooms.
After everything, you realize less is more, especially when it comes to peace.
But he walked into the light of the street anyway, choosing a quiet future over a loud and hollow lie.
In the end, he chose peace over noise, because silence is golden when chaos has had its say.